Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Hurdle the Line Week 6 preview show. We've got a lot of football to talk about. After last weekend's slate, this is predicted, by the way, gents, this is predicted to be, this was the weekend everybody looked at for college football. And after last week, this could be a weekend everyone looks at for NFL football. To talk through all of this, I have with me our regular returner, Karl. How are you, sir?
All good, mate. All good, thank you. Yeah, result didn't go our way last week, but it's what it is.
We have new boy on the block. You will know him from the review show, but he's here on the preview show with us now. We have Shaun.
I'm awesome because I did get a win this week, which is unusual, but we take it when we get it,
And special guest gets thrown around a lot. I never truly meant this week. We truly have a very special guest returning from a former Asleep at Work episode. We have Bucks fan Munze. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Not much else to say. We lost, though. Can't say that.
There's a real divide in the room.
Well, luckily, my team didn't even play last week, so I just got to enjoy everything from a neutral standpoint, which was great. Luckily, we don't have to talk about last week's games very much. There will be one that creeps back up in a bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We'll just get to talk about next week. Start off, we're going to fire through a couple of little bits of news. We have the fact that the New York Jets fired head coach Robert Saleh after losing to the Vikings at the weekend in London. They at least gave him a ride home on the plane, it seems, so they didn't just strand him in a foreign country, which is nice of them. It's about the nicest thing they've done to him as well. The firing wasn't pretty. There were 3 new starting QBs across the league this week. Drake May will start for the New England Patriots. Aidan O'Connell will start for the Las Vegas Raiders. And Spencer Rattler will start for the New Orleans Saints. I believe, in just other couple of little bits of news, we've had a couple of players hit IR. I did have them in a list somewhere. Let's see if I can get them up. If you guys know of any, please just shout them out. Nico Collins, there we go. Christian Wilkins, I believe, has gone on IR. And it looks like Michael Pittman Jr. will be going on IR as well for the Colts. The only other little bit of news I can think of off the top of my head is that the NFL have placed Patriot safety Jabril Peppers on the commissioner's exempt list after he was arrested at the weekend. This was briefly spoken about on Monday night. Don't want to get too much into the details of that, but Karl, I need to ask first. You may be seeing a bit more of this than the rest of us, being that it's to do with the Patriots. What's going on at the moment with Jabril Peppers?
What you say is he's put on the commissioner exempt list for a domestic violence charge on his girlfriend or his fiance. Apparently, he got her incredibly drunk and then beat her up, basically in the most logical sense, is what she has said. But apparently, according to Jabril Peppers, it wasn't anything to do with that. It was a case of she was already intoxicated, and apparently, and I know this is a family show, but this is sexual education for you. Apparently, he didn't want to have sex with her without protection. I don't know what you want to make of that, what you will, but at the end of the day, he has been charged for it. But we need to see what else happens.
Yeah.
All that we know is if he does come off the exempt list, you bet your bottom dollar next year he's going to get a bit of a ban next year. Probably six, maybe to an 8-game ban at the start of next year. But I've always said if you're a player on my team, you do something similar to that, don't want you anywhere near the franchise. Off you go.
No, and it's important right now just to let the process play out.
Yeah.
It's not on any of us to speculate what has or has not happened. So I appreciate you letting us know what has been said, and that's that, Karl. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just a quick one on IR as well. Kevin Thibodeau looks like he's going to be on IR for 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. I meant to mention it, but just
that's a big loss.
It's a massive loss for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We'll get on to actual football now. So obviously our Monday night crew, who the episode gets released on a Tuesday, they can briefly talk a little bit about the game on Monday Night Football, but obviously we can't talk about it as if it just happened. So we get to review a little bit, which is my favourite thing to do at the moment. So on Monday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the New Orleans Saints 26-13. Did any of you watch the game? Is normally the best place to start.
I didn't watch it live, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights.
Yeah, same as the highlights for me. Staying up on a Monday night when you got work, it's not.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd ever stay up. I don't think I'd ever stay up and watch the Saints game ever. So.
I'll do it for the Giants and no one else. That's my motto.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I didn't. No,
I'll
I
message
didn't
you
watch
next
any of
time then, if that's the case.
It's a worrying thing that there are certain people who've figured out that if they're awake at 2 a.m. and bored, if they text me, they know they'll get a text back. And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. Don't matter if the Lions are playing. It could be a Wednesday night. They'll get a text back. Anywhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, you will get a text back. Because I'm just naturally up till that late anyway. I'm a night owl. What can I say? So after watching some of the highlights, what were some of your key takeaways? Anybody stand out to you, particularly in the highlights? Kelsey got going early, which is something people have complained about. Is Kelsey not getting going for the Chiefs? The lateral pass on the 3rd and 20. I want to say 23.
20.
Might have been.
I think it was.
Roughly 3rd and 23. Absolute genius. Well, very, very well executed. They fell just short, but then got the first down on the 4th down conversion. Anyone stand out to you guys from the highlights?
So there's a... sorry.
No, go on, mate. Off you go.
Yeah, there's a couple. Well, obviously, you've touched on Kelsey. Kelsey looks like he's finally getting somewhere near where you would like him to be. He's obviously had a slow start. Juju Smith-Schuster as well seemed to have a few really key catches in important times. I know he had that 50-yard catch and run, although I think the cornerback slipped and that was kind of what let him go. But he seemed to pop up when they needed them in key moments in the game as well. And Hunt as well. Kareem Hunt seemed to just keep them going, keep them moving, get them the 4, 5, 6 yards, making the other players a bit easier. So it's kind of spread out, which was interesting to see. Considering how many injuries they have on offense, they still seem to have loads of weapons, which is annoying. But yeah, that was kind of the story of the game, really.
Yeah. What about you, Munter? Did you notice anything particularly in the highlights that took you?
I'll just stand out is how badly Saints need a decent quarterback, because I don't rate Karl. I didn't rate Jameis Winston when he was there. I don't rate Karl. I never have. And I watched it and I just thought, this bloke's not getting any better. Mahomes, well, just Mahomes, and I think you give him the tools, he'll do it. And he just seems to be getting better and better. What I saw in that game, I can't see anyone not winning the Super Bowl apart from them at the moment. Everyone's got to try and get above them.
They're not. To me, they're still in first gear as well, which is what's really worrying.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell they're just doing just enough to win. They're nowhere near at the best, and they're still beating teams. Which, I mean, that's no surprise. That's the standard Chiefs. We don't get to see the real Chiefs till much later in the season. But
great teams find a way to win, even when you are not firing on all cylinders. The Pats had so many seasons where we just stumbled out of the gates in the first 6 to 8 weeks, and we were winning, but it weren't convincing. It didn't look great. It didn't look pleasing on the eye at all. As soon as you get to, I always say, as soon as I think there's a saying that Belichick used to say, as soon as it goes past Thanksgiving, that's it. Football then starts. And that's when I think you then start seeing the Chiefs really start getting into gear then. And I think if they don't have a loss by then, it's going to be very, very difficult to who is going to be the one to not put the 1 on their L loss. Because otherwise Miami are going to be absolutely bricking it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Did anyone see Big Man run?
I did. He's got some wheels, man. How fast was he?
He really does. Big Man run.
He's so fast.
Everybody. So I think I tweeted out at the time, which again, like, timestamps don't help me for when the times I'm awake. People know. But I remember tweeting at the time. I just thought, it doesn't matter what team you support, what the situation is, or even if it happens against your team. Everyone loves a big man run.
They don't love it if he drops it, though. That's the problem. You can kind of see everyone's like, "This is awesome. Please don't drop it. Please don't drop it."
That'd be me. That'd be me.
But it was so impressive, and I believe so. I've heard a couple of things about this game since through listening to various other bits of content. So I heard some clips from the New Heights podcast, which Jason Kelsey had said it was something like 15.8 miles an hour was his top speed on the carry, which is the fastest. It's the fastest ball carrier of any player over 320 pounds in NFL history. Which again, I thought the same thing as Jason Kelsey said. It was like, feels like a compliment, but not sure. But he's the fastest ball carrier over 320 pounds in NFL history. And then on the St. Brown Brothers podcast, Equinemius St. Brown, who now plays for the Saints, was talking to Amon Ra about it, and they said they've got a couple of guys in their locker room who were on the Chiefs for the last couple of years. And they basically said that to kind of end the discussion, that was not a designed play call. But if you play for the Chiefs, the running backs especially are all made aware in certain situations, get near Kelsey because he wants to lateral it. Like he wants to make a play like that. He makes them in practice all the time. So while the play wasn't designed, it's known within the Chiefs that Kelsey would try to do it. So whether you want to put that down to simply, yes, Kelsey was doing good, but that's just great awareness and what a fantastic knower of the game he is, or what, I don't know, but that kind of puts some of that argument to bed on that. So with that, the Chiefs moved to 5-0, and the Saints, who everybody had as Super Bowl favourites a couple of weeks ago, are now 2-3.
Who had them as Super Bowl favourites?
Mrs. Fletch.
Yeah. To be fair, there were a lot of people who they really looked good that first couple of weeks. They did. And I just think too many people thought that this was now a thing. And the other thing I do want to say is Derek Carr did some very Derek Carr things. That first interception was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a professional quarterback do. I expected it from Davis Warren at Michigan.
He got blitzed. He got blitzed on that play, and he just chucked it up in the air. And as soon as you do that, you know one of the corners is going to come down with it from the Chiefs.
Oh yeah,
that just looks like their offense is either Kamara runs the ball or he just lobs it downfield. And like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That seems to be their offense at the moment, which is
they're two
weird.
offense. Yeah, they're three weapons that they got, as you said. It's Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Raheed Shaheed. Who basically is throw deep and hopefully lands in the end zone, which is great for fantasy people, but unfortunately it's a nightmare because he'll either get you like 20 points or he'll get you diddly squat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just wanted to kind of... It reminded me, that one, very Davis Warren. For those of you who aren't into college football, Karl, hopefully you should know that what I mean by that. It's very Davis Warren of him.
Very.
That one. But... we're not here to talk about last week. We're here to talk about the week up and coming, and we're here to talk about football that we're about to watch. Got a couple of topics here for us to chat through before we properly get into the nitty-gritty of the week. It's week 5. We're just over a quarter of the way into the season. Now we start finding out what teams are about. Now we start seeing the league start to take some general shape. Lots of things are going to change still. There's lots of weeks of football. But certain things are starting to take shape, including some of the divisions. Now, I've got my question for all of you, and I'm going to throw this to Muncie first. I'm going to put you on the spot here, mate. Are there any divisions that have surprised? Like, you look at some of these divisions, whether it's whoever's leading the division, just certain divisions looking stronger that are surprising you at the moment.
Probably Washington Commanders in that division. I know someone that supports their Commanders. He bangs on about them all the time, but I've not really caught many of their games, but seeing them at the top's a bit of a shock, to be fair, because they're usually at the bottom. But yeah, I am quite shocked with them, and I think he's over the moon. So
probably more of a reflection on the rest of the division than it is on the Commanders. Although they have played some nice stuff, to be fair, but everyone else is not great.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, the Bucks have surprised me.
Yeah, you look surprised by them. What about you guys? So I've got a couple of stats here. Just looking through some of the divisions. Now, I'm going to toot the horn of the NFC North for a second. All 4 teams have a plus 500 record in the NFC North, included. So the Packers and the Bears are 3-2. The Lions, after a bye week, 3-1, and the Vikings are well known now as undefeated. The NFC West, AFC South, and AFC East all have 3 teams below 500. No one has, at least one team in every division is plus 500. But those 3 have 3. And then my other note was that the Washington are leading the NFC East. Can we bring back the comment, the NFC least again?
Not yet. Not yet. Well, maybe in a couple of weeks.
Because, well, this weekend, I hope that record to continue. But what about the AFC South? Certainly not the AFC South, the AFC North at the moment, the one that we all thought was going to be the really, really, really hard division for anyone to make it in.
Well, we've gone through 5 weeks so far on the AFC North side of things, and no one was predicting that the Steelers after 5 weeks would be top of that division.
Nope.
However, they have had 2 back-to-back losses. They've now had 2 back-to-back losses, so maybe they're being found out a little bit in the same way, a little bit like the Saints have. No one had them at the top of their echelon, and now all of a sudden they've been found out a little bit. Baltimore, they started off sluggish, bit slow. They got that big win over Dallas, and since then they have roamed forward. Although, let's be real, last week they got a little bit lucky against the Bengals, thanks to Evan McPherson able to shank the field goal in OT. So do never ever give the chance for Justin Tucker to nail a game-winning field goal. Never, because he will just put it through. He's Mr. Automatic for a reason. Cleveland have shocked me because they've got too much talent on that team, but they're being outdone by the quarterback. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. There's no way he could just fall off a cliff like that. We all know what the issue is, but unfortunately, the people above would rather hang on to the prize asset that they literally sent the farm for to go and acquire Deshaun Watson, rather than actually saying, yeah, time's up. Put Jameis Winston in or put DLR in there. And then there's Cincinnati. They're staying in games, but they're losing. For 3 straight games now, Joe Burrow is throwing over 300 yards, keeping this Bengals team in games, but the defense is doing literally next to nothing in order to sustain the outpour from the offense on the other team.
Do you think they'll, as you said like earlier, you think after Thanksgiving, do you think they'll change it, the Bengals? Do you think they'll get better, or do you just think they're going to carry on?
I think there's a case of, I don't think it's the offense that's the problem. It is the defensive side of the ball. I mean, but unfortunately, they do have an owner who is very tight with his money, shall we say. So, but the Bengals will stay in. If they still put up, I always say, if your defense can always, if your offense puts up 30 points a game, you should theoretically be able to hold down the fort with just a bang average or even a below average defense. But the Bengals defense is absolutely horrid, and it's killing them. It is killing them in games, and that's why they're sitting at 1-4. And I wouldn't say this week, if they did somehow lose to the G-Men, if they lost on Sunday Night Football, I wouldn't say, the term of phrase, stick a fork in it, basically your season's done. We are using that fork and prodding it to find a spot where we can actually stab the fork in. That could be the game. So this division the AFC North is absolutely wide open. It is exciting. But yeah. But for me, Baltimore, they're getting into gear at the right time, and Derrick Henry is just he's just a king. He's just awesome, absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
Right then.
I mean, we spoke about this on Monday on the review show. It's really almost unspoken just how many pieces the Bengals lost this year on defense, or how important those pieces were. We personally got one. We got DJ Reader, who was massive for their run stuffing game. He's been brilliant for us so far. Stuff in the run. they've struggled against that. They've struggled in various different formats. Do you think that they've got a problem right now with, say, teams do it? We've got Joe Burrow. We'll be fine.
That's exactly what I was going to come back and say. That's the attitude they and the fans and seemingly anyone related to the Bengals is like, it's all right because we got Burrow and Chase, so it's fine. We can still win. And it's just a ridiculous attitude to have. You're not going to win games with that. Certainly not going to get anywhere near a Super Bowl with that attitude. And that window's going to start closing soon as well. It's a weird one.
Yeah. But what about? Look, I'm looking at some of the other divisions. I'm going to say, from my own perspective, the AFC South a little bit has annoyed me, mostly because I thought the Jags were going to be better. That's my own fault. I made the mistake there. That's my own fault.
Everybody makes that mistake every year with the Jags. Don't worry.
But I don't know. The AFC South disappointed me quite a bit. I thought I thought the Titans were going to be better, but again, I didn't factor in what I now call just Will Levis, and I just call that a factor in which, where your quarterback, like you think a team's very good, but then you forget that they have Will Levis at quarterback. It's one of those things. So that division has so much promise.
Is that Will Levis used to be at Kentucky? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, he was good at Kentucky. Obviously he's not. It's not good now.
No,
I've not really seen him in the. I have heard about it, but yeah,
it might be all right if he didn't just chuck the ball away every time he gets any contact,
or throw it backwards.
Yeah.
But do you remember the pre-draft?
I've heard he's a bit.
The pre-draft process, and I remember kind of early on, like in the hours before the draft, the argument was whether Will Levis would go in the top 3, and potentially Will Levis could crack top 3, and then he didn't go until day 2.
Yeah, but he was all right. I watched him for Kentucky. He was all right. I reckon he's got a bit of NFL nerves or something, because I have heard how bad he is now, but he was never that bad.
The problem is that when you play at the collegiate level, it's a lot different to playing at the NFL level. Quarterbacks either sink or swim if they come to the NFL. This is why when you get drafted in the first round, you've got more chance of those quarterbacks actually elevating themselves. Very, very rarely you get quarterbacks in the lower rounds that actually excel at the NFL level, and usually if they ever do, they actually turn out to be greats.
As well, it's not like he was in the SEC. You say he was in Kentucky, he's in the SEC. Those are kind of the quarterbacks you kind of want coming out, because they played with the highest level of competition in the SEC. But I think one of the things for me, though, was like that pre-draft process, one where just before the draft, everyone was tipping him to go really high, and he was climbing up draft boards only for him to just... The constant shots of him, like I felt bad for him by a certain point. Just the constant shots of him sat in the green room, and his girlfriend sat next to him, just looking more and more like she was about to leave him.
I think he had every single team shirt just to get ready to put one of them on.
Yeah, but then
the thing is,
it was the mayo in the coffee. I should have seen it with the mayo in the coffee.
It's just it could be a time thing though. The things that he does wrong aren't things that you can't correct. It's not like he has really bad mechanics or really, really glaring issues that you just think no one's going to be able to fix that. So it could be a time thing, but whether he gets that time, who knows?
It's just a bit strange though, because Will Levis obviously hasn't played well in the first 2 games. The minute he goes down with the injury, in comes Mason Rudolph, and then all of a sudden, the running game's working, the receivers are getting open, the offensive line is doing its job. So is this really just a personnel situation, or is the quarterback just not? Can he just not do it in this system?
Time will tell, I guess.
It's an interesting. I also think some of them though, and again going on to the part, like the Derek Carr problem on Monday, was just there are some QBs who have the talent but just don't have the mental capacity to deal with the pace of the game especially when they come under fire. Derek Carr was the perfect example of that. Like you give him a clean pocket, he's fine. The second that pocket is not clean, he panics, and then anything can happen. It's fair game for it being a pick six, a touchdown.
Yeah. Derek Carr wreck, I call him.
Very, very appropriate.
I love that.
Derek Carr wreck.
But it was the same with Levis, and some of those mistakes this year was just the second he came under pressure, it became. Didn't
he stay? Did he stay at Kentucky for 2 years? He was supposed to be drafted the year before, wasn't he? And I think he stayed again. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but
I can't remember.
And then I think. And then I was watching it because I watch a lot of college football a lot, but I was watching him and I thought, this bloke, when he said he's going to go for the top, I thought, yeah, we wouldn't. And I haven't seen it, but I have heard how bad he's been. So I mean, it's a shame, but
there was some
happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, there were character concerns over him as well. I remember going into the draft, as what some people were saying, which is why he potentially fell. But yeah, it's just one of those we think with Will Levis. I do appreciate the meme every week that he brings out, though. I love them every week. But on that note, I think as well, moving into last week, we do want to talk a little bit about last week, but more in terms of what does this mean going forward. So, in the NFL last week, it felt like we turned a corner going into coming out of week 5 on offense. We all mentioned how scoring was down, yardage was down. There are a variety of different statistics on offense that were down, more field goals than ever before, that kind of thing. So last week it felt a bit different. So I pulled out a couple of stats. Now in week 5, there were 48.9 points per game. This was the highest of the season. Lowest was in week 2 with 39.6 points per game. 75 touchdowns, 54 field goals, and 64 extra points were made. Which, actually, looking back now, means, okay, some of them would have been 2-point conversions, but there's a few missed XPs in there. 727.7 yards per game, which was comfortably the most yards per game in this season. The second most was 657.3, which was last week, the week before. And then finally, 516.9 passing yards per game. Second most was 475 in week 3. Feels like a jump, boys. Shaun, did you feel that this week?
Yeah, I felt that. I mean, like you say, the stats back it up, but you could feel it in the game. Some of it's just matchup related, but like I was thinking about this when I was watching the games. This is how I always view the season. Because of obviously the limitations they have in preseason now, everyone always says September's the preseason still, Nobody knows exactly who anyone is until at least this time of year. Week 5, week 6, you start to see the offenses start showing what they've got. And then you have this period where the offenses kind of dominate for probably 4 or 5 weeks, and then the defenses start to adjust to some of the things they're seeing, and then it balances out again, and we start getting some interesting games. So it's no real surprise. This is kind of how the NFL runs now. Usually October, November is when we start seeing some really good football, so it wasn't too much of a surprise. But yeah, you just love to see it. Everyone wants to see scores. That's why we watch this sport. So
generally, yeah. But I'm sure I know you and I can appreciate a good defense. We've spoken about this on a number of occasions. You and I, we could have, maybe not 3-0, but a low-scoring game with genuinely good defense, we can appreciate it. What about you, Munter? How did you feel about the weekend's games? Do you also feel like there was a jump in offense?
Well, apart from our game, I thought our game was a high-scoring game, but I'd rather see it like back in the day when we could win the game with a defense. But yeah, it did seem like quite a big jump. To be fair, I prefer the games where they more tries and more tries, wrong sport, more touchdowns. Do you know what I mean, and stuff like that, and more points. Because I remember some games back in the day we'd win. I think we won one game 10-3, and I thought, oh god, do you know what I mean? It's just better for the viewer, really, but it's not when you lose them, is it?
Yeah.
Unless you've got fantasy implications, that helps it ease the pain.
Yeah.
Karl, your team really didn't bloody help these stats this week. Really didn't. Neither did your opponents, though, 15-9. Did
No,
you,
no.
in general, outside of the Dolphins-Patriots game, get this feeling too?
Well, put it this way: I was watching a game where we were reverting back to football, where men were men and the New York Jets didn't exist. We were talking this level of incompetence when it comes to offense. But no, as seen through the rest of the games is concerned, there has been an uptick in scoring, and there needed to be as well. But there's also been an uptick as well in turnovers that's led to scoring, that's led to points, especially pick sixes. We saw Van Winkle take a pick six from Aaron Rodgers to the house in London. We had Patrick Surtain taking one from 101 yards, literally from almost in the start of their end zone, all the way through to the other side, which was amazing.
Shaun?
So yeah,
Shaun saw one.
Shaun
I
saw
did.
one.
I did
Shaun
see one.
blocked field goal. Went all the way back
It was
in for
very useful timing that one.
That pretty much iced the game and killed any sort of momentum Seattle had. But yeah, so no, I think there has been an uptick in games as well, and yeah, long may it continue, because for fantasy it also helps for fantasy implications as well.
You can't. We can't. You couldn't just leave it there because you had to come in with the fantasy as well. It helps for fantasy. That's all that matters. Going to drop a couple of stats on you that the National Football League have lovingly sent me in an email this week, as they do send me some things in an email every week. 47 games have been decided by 7 or fewer points this season. That's more than any other season so far, through 5 games. 41 of those have been decided by 6 points or fewer, the most of any point through 5 weeks. That's it, 5. So we're getting a lot of close matchups here, and maybe that helps. Maybe that helps because the closer you are in a game, the more. If you're behind, the more risks you're gonna take. You look at the Bengals-Ravens game, how that ended up going, not stopping. I was watching Red Zone a lot this weekend, so the Jags-Colts game kept popping up. There's like 40 points in the fourth quarter between them two. These games where I think the fourth quarter, some of them are just turning into absolute chaos because, well, each team trying to jump on top of each other and take on. Do you think that the close games are helping in this, Karl?
Yeah, I do believe the close games are helping in this. It just makes it for a little bit more intense and be a bit more exciting, especially in the fourth quarter now, because we know most games nowadays that we've seen this season has been by 7 points or less, which makes it enthralling on the fourth quarter. But I think overall, you want it to be competitive. You don't want to see a number of fixtures have blowouts, and it's like there's no point coming back. I know, unless you're a team that likes to choke away leads, i.e., like the San Francisco 49ers, then you are in a different then you're in a different sense of evil. Then, but if you like that sort of thing, but no, overall, I think keeping the games close makes it for more exciting viewing.
Absolutely. Would any of you two like to weigh in on that conversation there? With anything else to add?
No, I don't think so. I think you've covered it. Definitely think keeping them close is definitely helping to that. But then there's also the ones that don't follow that model probably also help as well because they just end up being.
Okay, sorry I didn't mean to cut in. There's been some breaking news from me and Rappaport. So, star corner for the Seattle Seahawks, Rick Woolen, is out tonight versus the 49ers. The Seahawks have signed cornerback Artie Burns off their practice squad to the 53-man roster. Just thought I'd let you know.
Okay.
They do not need
corner.
that.
That's their best corner.
They do not need that. They're already going to struggle badly.
Mm-hmm.
They are indeed. Now, speaking of struggling, we've gone from offense is struggling to offense is getting better, but we're also going to talk about some other people who are struggling, and these are some of the head coaches around the league. Now, we can finally get to talk about it. I know it's been on our lips all week. We've all been thinking about it. In what was a slight shock earlier this week, Robert Saleh was fired from the New York Jets. I say it was a shock. I don't think anyone was expecting it to happen when it did. We certainly spoke about it on the podcast last week, even his name came up in this kind of conversation, and we said maybe going to wait a few weeks at least to see if this is the right decision. First off, Karl, I'll let you jump on in a second because you did us a video on the channel a couple of hours after it happened. Shaun, what were your first thoughts as the news came through as Robert Saleh was fired? Do you think it was the right decision? Do you agree with it? Thoughts?
Like you say, it's a surprise, but it's not a surprise because it's not a surprise it happened. It's probably a surprise when it happened. Do I think it's a good thing? I'm not sure. Like, weirdly, he's probably the best coach they've got in the building. He's just not the best head coach for that team. Like, I think if he was DC, he'd be brilliant, but he's not. He's a head coach. I don't think he's ever been a head coach. I don't think he will be a head coach again.
No.
He will go somewhere and do exceptionally well as a DC, but he won't be a head coach again. My initial thoughts are just, as everyone probably was, whose decision was it? Who made the phone call? I mean, we all know who was going to be involved. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. And despite him coming out and pleading innocence and trying to make out that they're best friends, despite many cameras capturing the fact that they're not best friends, and all the whispers from preseason, and as soon as, to be honest, when he came out in the press conference and basically questioned his cadence and stuff like that, I was just thought this is not going to end well. And then
this is a power struggle.
There it is. So yeah, not surprised that it happened. Probably surprised that it happened when it did. But what now? My question is like, what now? They're just an absolute shambles. They're not going to get anybody that's going to make the organisation any better. Rodgers has basically been exactly what everyone expected. He's just caused chaos in the dressing room. He's not performing anywhere near what they wanted from him. He's probably not going to be there much longer, and now they've lost the head coach. So it's just Jets. Jets being Jets is my final thought on it.
Could say Jets being Jets, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Munter? Did you see it coming?
I wasn't shocked. No, I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't shocked that, like I said, it was gonna happen. But whether they just wanted to do it now, but then have they got anyone to replace him? You know what I mean? Like it's just said, who want to go there? Maybe they should promote Rodgers and let him do it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but he said Rodgers has gone in there and done what Rodgers does. So I can't see Rodgers being there much longer either. But I did know a few Jets fans when Rodgers went in there, and they were really, really excited. But they'll probably be hanging themselves now.
Yeah, I've got to say though, one of the best tweets. So some great tweets, and sometimes in moments like this, the internet is undefeated. Nothing beats it. It's the greatest place to be. That's why I always run to Twitter, no matter how bad that place gets. I always go to Twitter in times like this. Best tweet I've seen across the whole thing was, as they were looking for the head coach, Ben Isaacs, famed NFL UK journalist, had said basically, "Oh great, now Aaron Rodgers has got to go and lead a head coaching search as if he doesn't have enough on his plate as it is," or something to those effects. I just thought I laughed way harder at that than I want to actually let on that I did.
Read the room. Just read the room. We know Rodgers ain't gonna do that sort of crap.
It's just I want to try and keep my thoughts on Rodgers are very well documented in my diary, in various other places. My thoughts on Rodgers are very well documented. But Karl, you did us a video on Tuesday.
Yes.
Do you want to recap some of the things that you went through, and then maybe anything you feel like you missed? If you did,
if I can remember, I won't go through the full echelon because otherwise this podcast will be 2 hours long. Right. So basically, I said that there are two ways you can look at this. You can first of all say, A, he deserved to be fired. His 3 seasons he had prior to this, he's had 10 or more losses. The only coach that has ever survived a 4th season with 10 plus losses is Gus Bradley when he was the coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars between 2013 and 2016. So it was probably warranted for him to be fired. I think if they fired him at the end of last season, I don't think we would have had any complaints about it going into this season. I don't think we would have. But I also have sympathy for Robert Saleh because I've done some calculations here, and through the first 5 games of this season, the Jets are giving up, on average, per game, 11.5 points per game. That's ranked 5th in the NFL. the defense is a Super Bowl caliber winning defense. If they continue to do that, what is Robert Saleh's bread and butter? He's a DC. Who did he get the DC for? The San Francisco 49ers, probably one of the best defensive coaching minds, possibly. So I feel sorry for him on that sense of thing. Whose fault was it? I do not know. But all I'll say is this, okay? It doesn't matter whatever sort of industry you're in. It could be football, it's business, or any sort of business, whether it's football or, a big corporate company like Walmart or supermarkets, that sort of thing. Everything trickles down from the top. It all starts from the top. And Woody Johnson played this as a tactical maneuver, in my personal opinion. But I'm going to say this. No one could look at me with a straight face and say Aaron Rodgers had absolutely nothing to do with that. He's got his fingerprints all over it. There was already grumblings going on in the seasons, especially after I think it was after the Tennessee game and after the Denver game. There was a little bit of disconcern between Rodgers and Saleh at the time. And when you look into, and then when you put all that into perspective, it does look like Rodgers has once again got his own way. Bearing this in mind, okay, he's got the players that he wanted. He got Alan Lazar. He ended up getting a Randall Cobbin. He got his head coach Nathaniel Can't Hackett in there, right? He got everything that he absolutely asked for, and then he goes and kicks out Robert Saleh because he
doesn't like hugs.
Because he's like, thank you very much. I'll accept that from you, Shaun. Here's the thing, though. So the DC, they've ranked the 26th on offense, ranked 5th on the defensive side of the ball, yet it's the coach that gets fired. I remember one time where Buffalo had that same sort of problem. I think in one game they gave up 500 yards on the defensive side of the ball, yet the following day the offensive coordinator gets fired. Go figure that out. It just makes no sense whatsoever. This is Aaron Rodgers in a power struggle. It really is now. He's got his man. He's got his players. They've got Jeff Ulbrich in now to be the interim head coach for the time being. He's never head coach. He's never had an NFL. He's never had a head coach at the NFL level. He's never been a head coach at the collegiate level. What makes him think that he can overturn this ship more than what Robert Saleh could? And I'll also go as far as this as well. He's nominated Todd Downing now to take over the offensive play calls. Because originally, that was what Robert Saleh was going to do, was take the play calling off Nathaniel Hackett, which that would have been the most obvious move. Because if anybody remember Nathaniel Hackett's time in Denver, was a shambles. Yeah. It was a shambles.
He's still considered. I was looking at a graphic the other day, I think by CBS, CBS or Fox, could have even been 33rd team. It was by a media thing, right? That had the list of the 10 worst head coaching hires of all time, and Nathaniel Hackett was third of all time on that list.
You can add 2 more onto that list as well. Adam Gase and Rick Coating, if I'm not mistaken.
The Jets were on there twice. The Browns were on there twice. The Lions were on there. The Broncos were on there. There were a couple of others. Some of them were absolutely terrible. But Nathaniel Hackett was in the top 3. I think the worst one of all time went down as Urban Meyer.
This is what all Jeff Ulbrich is going to be, is an organizational puppet. That's who he is to. That's all he will end up being to Aaron Rodgers now. But they've put Todd Downing in as the play caller on offense. So what the flipping hell is Nathaniel Hackett actually doing? Because the whole point of you being the OC is you call the plays on offense. So what is your actual job title?
He's just carrying Rodgers' bags around.
Making
water boy for Rodgers.
He is the water boy. He is the water boy.
I was going to say, my answer is...
He is the poor man's Bobby Boucher. Let's put it that way.
Bobby
Boucher, sorry.
I want to say, my response to that is redacted for legal reasons. But on that note, though, so we can talk about this all day again, but there are a couple of other head coaches who may or may not be feeling the same heat that Saleh was feeling, even if maybe Saleh wasn't quite feeling it. as much as they should be. Who for you right now should be, should be getting a bit uncomfortable wherever they're sat? Whose bum cheeks are getting toasted? Munse, who are you thinking at the moment? Who should be getting uncomfortable?
Bengals head coach, I reckon. I reckon he's might have a bit of squeaky bum time if something don't change. I think because they've got to they've been there. They've been to the Super Bowl. They want to win it, and this time they're not. They can't even win their games now, let alone get into the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? I think he's going to be. I think, as Karl said earlier, I think if they lose this weekend, I think that might. But then, will they keep him till the end of the season and then get rid of him? Because if they think the season's finished, will they just wait till the end of the season and do it that way? But yeah, I think definitely he's squeaky bum time.
Absolutely. What about you, Shaun?
I've got Doug Pedersen. He may not come back from London, is the way I would put it. He's got a couple of weeks of must-win games. They're just not improving. They're not. They've obviously got the Lawrence contract riding over them now. Everyone expects big things, and they have done for the last 3-4 seasons. It's just not happening. Like, it's not coming. Nothing's changing. They're not getting any better. You don't know what you're going to get week to week either, which is even more frustrating. If he goes to London, which is technically their second home, and still doesn't get a result, he might not make it back. Although I did just see earlier that their flight has also been delayed because of the hurricanes, and they're not even going to get there on time, which probably won't help. But yeah, he's even if he gets 2 wins, which I don't think he will, he's still going to be under pressure when he gets back, and it'll just be a matter of time. But if he struggles to get a couple of wins or even 1 win, he might as well just stay at customs and look for somewhere else.
I've got to say, I had to do some Googling last week and just wanted to remind Doug Pedersen, if you are listening, around 15-minute walk southwest of Wembley is a job centre plus. You can go sign on there, speak to Rachel. Who else though? Karl, I know you. I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that you also had Doug Pedersen on your list.
I had Doug Pedersen on my list, so obviously Shaun beat me to the punch on that one. So I'm going to go with my next option, and it's probably your pick, and it's going to be Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. He was up on my list as well.
Yeah, this guy, he's getting found out very, very easily. They've not had a good start. I think he's missing the basic fundamentals in football at this moment in time. I don't know what he's done to Jalen Hurts because he's not the player he once was, although that might be something to do with the fact Jason Kelce's not there anymore. And I think Jason Kelce, covered up the defenses, calling what their plays they're going to be doing. Because it does look like to me that Jalen Hurts can't read defenses, and Jason Kelce is basically giving him as much information as he possibly could. So maybe he doesn't know how to read defense, but that's the quarterback. We're talking about the coach. Nick Sirianni has come across as one of the most arrogant coaches. Okay, you made a Super Bowl. Cool, fine. Zach Taylor for the Bengals, he's not arrogant. He's just a little bit inept. But he doesn't have this arrogance about him. Whereas Sirianni thinks he's the king of the castle and just thinks, yeah, I've made a Super Bowl. I can do whatever the hell I want. Unfortunately, in this case, you've got a very good team on you. You shouldn't be blowing these sorts of games. That comes down to coaching. That comes down to the basic fundamentals in football. I feel like but he's very fortunate to be in a division where you've got the Giants, who are very, very hit and miss. You've got the Cowboys, who do a very good regular season team, but as soon as they reach the playoffs, they shit the bed. And then you got Washington, who was the butt of everyone's joke until they've got a new owner. And it seems like now they've turned the corner. So he's very fortunate to be in that division. If he was in somewhere like, I don't know, like the AFC North or even the NFC West for that matter, he'll be out on his backside he would have been out on his backside last season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I go with Sirianni.
Yeah. Well, you are right. That was my number one choice. But I can't say I disagree with any of them. I think Zach Taylor has to be on that hot seat, and there's no way that you can turn around and say he can try and put up that argument of the whole, but the AFC North is really, really hard. So your job is to go out there and put that product on the field, and so far you're not doing it. If this season continues to now go the way it's going, maybe have to start looking at Dennis Allen, because you can't let a man keep a career after because 2 games were really good.
Is Dennis Allen really calling plays on offense though? Because I think that's Clint Kubiak that's calling the offensive plays.
Clint Kubiak, definitely. But the fact is, they had 2 really good games. He can't keep his job because they had 2 really good games.
Who did they play in those 2 games? Do we know?
First 2 games were...
I'm just having a look now. So, where are we? So their first 2 games of the season was the road game against the Panthers, and then they slapped up the Cowboys.
Panthers and
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
They lost to the Eagles. They've lost to the Falcons, and now they've lost to the Chiefs.
So, other than maybe the Cowboys, you could argue. But they put it down on a Bryce Young Panthers. I'm sorry, but you can only play what's in front of you. But it's a Bryce Young Panthers. I can only play you can only play what's in front of you. But if I go to my daughter's school and just start trucking 7-year-olds, it just doesn't count. I can only play what's in front of me. I'm sorry. It's a Bryce Young. Not good enough. There are a couple that I think ever so rightly you've all put forward a couple there that have to be in that consideration. Last little bit I want to talk about before we move on to, I guess, to get onto the proper chunk of it. Try and gloss over this one. 3 new starting quarterbacks this week. As mentioned before, Drake May for the New England Patriots, Spencer Rattler for the New Orleans Saints, and Aiden O'Connell will be starting for the Raiders. So, obviously, the Patriots will play the Texans at home this week. The Saints play the Bucs at home this week. And Aiden O'Connell will face the Steelers at home this week. Who out of these 3 is going to have the best start? Now, I'm going to open this up to Karl while we've got the time. I know you have some thoughts on this. Would you like to please share where you're at with Drake May?
He's always got thoughts on Patriots.
He's got thoughts on everything, Karl.
Listen. When it got announced, literally 15 minutes before the Patriots touchback was meant to go live, we found out Drake May was going to be the starting quarterback. So we was going to go into that episode completely and utterly derailed and really deflated. But we got excited because we kind of knew it needed to happen. I've been saying for so many weeks now, this team can't get any worse if you put Drake May in there now. It can't get any worse. So it's been confirmed. I've got quite a bit of optimism for Drake May because unlike when we had a certain Mac Jones come in, he'd come from Alabama. He had he'd had everything served to him on a silver platter. He had the offensive line, he had the running back, he had the receivers, he had the tight end. He had the greatest head coach in NCAA history, and it's no argument, and it can't be argued. Okay, he had everything handed to him. He was basically fed the silver spoon, right? Whereas Drake May has come from North Carolina, who he had to work with no offensive line, and one decent receiver in Tez Walker, who we haven't seen in the NFL at all this season. But his athleticism and his ability to evade the pocket is brilliant, and he has got a cannon on an arm. On his day, he is a carbon copy of Justin Herbert. I will say Justin Herbert, not Josh Allen, not just yet, because I haven't seen it yet. I've got optimism for him to actually perform really, really well, but I don't think you're going to see that in the first 2 or 3 games because it's the NFL level. He's going to have teething problems. He's going to get hit quite a few times, especially with our porous offensive line. But overall, I think you'll see, if we can just see some splash plays out of him and see this offense actually does move, it would generally look good. Sean, what about you? Do you think it would be May, or do you think someone else?
I was going to ask you a question, actually. So, are you concerned about like injuries and stuff like that? Obviously, you mentioned the offensive line, which we know is terrible. And I think it's like I agree with you. I think it's the right thing to bring him in. Like you need to have some sort of positivity, otherwise you're just going to go into the rest of the season's going to be horrendous, and everyone's going to lose their jobs and all sorts. So I agree bringing him in, but is there a part of you that thinks, what if he gets injured? What if something serious happens, or do you that's just football, and if it happens, it happens?
You make the decision. If he does get injured, that is football at the end of the day. Look, we're not a contender. We're not we're not making the playoffs. We'll be struggling. We'll probably struggle to win 7 games this season if we will. Does Drake May gives us a better chance to win games? I believe it does. I believe he does. And I think he's come into the timing of it is wrong, because I think he should have started last week against Miami, against a third string quarterback and the team that's completely on the ropes at the moment. And I think we missed a golden opportunity there to maybe get a win there. So now we're going up against the Texans team, which has got a very, very good defense. I'm a bit concerned on that front more than anything. But he has taken hits before. He's a tough, strong kid. He's 6'4", 225. He's a big guy. He's a big guy to try and tackle down. Let's put it that way.
Fingers crossed it goes well. Yeah.
If he gets injured, he gets
injured.
Do
you reckon out of the lot that are coming, the 3, do you reckon he's got the better chance of carrying it on, like with the other 2 that are coming in this week?
I
was going to say my pick that I actually want to see, and there's no disrespect to May by far, obviously the better quarterback. Obviously, there's other issues going on there. Rattler's actually the one that I want to watch. I did quite a lot of film study on him coming out of the draft. I really liked him. I was hoping after we decided not to go quarterback at 6, I was hoping we would maybe take him in the later rounds as some sort of backup to Jones in case Jones is Jones. And yeah. He's got good mobility. He can scramble out the pocket. He's quite quick on his feet. He's got a decent deep ball. He kind of fits perfectly for the Saints offense. And I think he'll help out with Kamara, and he's got that deep ball in his locker if they need to use it. I think for Saints fans who have probably weren't that excited about Derek Carr coming in anyway, and then he goes down, and now they're gonna see something that they haven't really seen very, very much in that organization for a long time, which is a bit of quarterback movement. So it's going to be fun. I mean, probably not what you want to hear, obviously, because he's going up against the Bucs. But it's. I think it's going to be a fun game for him, to be honest. No pressure either.
No, true. I don't think the Saints have had a good quarterback for a while, though.
No.
Karl, I remember the bloke's name. Who was the quarterback? Who was the quarterback before Winston? No, before that.
Do you mean Drew Brees?
Oh, Drew Brees.
That wasn't him. It might have been him, but
and then they had Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. Oh, he was awful. It was awful for us. Let alone flipping the same. Jesus Christ.
I think
he's gonna. He's like Rattler. I don't know much about Rattler, but I think he might have. Because the Bucs' defense is a good. It's strong. It's getting back to strong. Like start of last season, it was poor, and then got better and better. But yeah, he's getting there. But I don't know. I think he's probably got a tough. Do you think he's got the toughest start out of all 3 of them?
No.
Who they're going against? Do you think
No, I think May's got the toughest start. Your Buccaneers team are a bit injured, are fairly injured on the defensive side of the ball. So I can, but you still pose as a threat. Whereas May's coming in with a very poor offensive line and a Houston Texans defense that held Josh Allen to completed 9 of 31 passes, which is like 30%. That's worrying if you think of it on that side of things.
Rattler's definitely got the best situation to come into, regardless of opponent. That team's a good team. They've got good weapons. They've got a decent offensive line. They've got a good run game, so the pressure's not going to be on him to do it, even though he can run. I think like I said, I think he slots nicely into their playbook. He's perfect for what they're doing at the moment. So yeah, should be an interesting watch.
With Aidan O'Connell, Aidan O'Connell, though, he's not a new starter. He did play last year, so I think he's just taken over the starting position
He's just going to
Gardner
continue
Minshew.
on.
But
He'll just continue on what Minshew was doing.
But why are you throwing him out there against the number one defense, one of the number one pass rushers in the NFL? That's just, you're sending the lamb out to slaughter.
That was going to be my point out of the three of them was, I mean, the Steelers' defense it's the per PFF, by the way. I know games not all played by stats, but per our premium PFF stats that we have here at the Asleep at Work Network, they are first in defense overall, first in pass rush, first in tackling, top 5 in run defense, and but they are 16th in coverage. So, but the thing is, you don't need to be great in coverage if the quarterback's on his back after 3 seconds. You're okay there. The Texans, as a whole, are 17th in ranked defense. The stats that they've got are pass rush, they're okay. Defense as a whole, they're just about average, but the rest of the kind of the stats they put up on defense are not great. It's an okay defense. It's around middle of the NFL kind of defense, and the same with the Bucs as a whole. But the Bucs are very good in coverage. They're very good in coverage, which we unfortunately found out in week 2 was just how good they are in coverage. So it's going to be an interesting one. Again, I do find it great that you've mentioned that O'Connell is not a rookie, whereas Rattler and May are.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be one of the bigger differences.
The good thing for Rattler as well, even if the Bucs are good in coverage, he can use his legs as well, which is going to cause them issues. So he's a dual threat really. So that might not be too much of an issue.
But one of the positives I think we had going into our game against you guys, Muncie, a few weeks ago was he's got a damn good running back to try and start opening that playbook up for him with Alvin Kamara, something that we had to try and open that playbook. And so hopefully, that can help complement him. Hopefully he doesn't have to do too much. Where are the Bucs on there? Bucs on run defense wise isn't the greatest, and they are. Where are they in run defense in the league? 29th in run defense. So
you've got Alvin Kamara, who's basically rolling back the years from 5 years ago.
But yeah, there's that. So with that in mind, as we look towards a couple of these games, I've noted a couple of games I think just that stand out to me. I'm going to list them off and then feel free to add any of them, any more of your own. 49ers at Seahawks tonight on Thursday Night Football could be a cracking game because the 49ers are a damn good team, even without Christian McCaffrey. They've shown that even if they're not at the best, they're still a strong team. The Seahawks could be anything at any given time. Yeah, but also I don't think the Seahawks are going to have taken too kindly to that result last week. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to be they're probably going to come out the block.
Same with the Niners.
Commanders at the Ravens is my game of the week. Commanders at the Ravens is my game of the week. That's going to be one hell of a game, and I'm already looking forward to seeing the Lamar, Jaden Daniels catch up at the end of the game and seeing that between them, because that's going to be a fun one to see. Lions at Cowboys, and I don't just say that because I am a Lions fan. They provide and it's always been an entertaining game for a neutral. It's always hard to watch as a Lions fan, but they do provide an entertaining game. And Lions going into Jerry World this week will be no different. And the Bucs at the Saints. Again, the Saints will be looking to try and re-galvanise their season after they've started to maybe lose a little bit of control. And the Bucs, as I said to you in a text the other day, Munzer, the Bucs are for real. As far as the Bucs are for real this year. And it'll take a lot to change my mind on this one. Any games out of those stand out to you as well? Anything you want to particularly get going on as we talk about this weekend's games upcoming?
I can't wait to see the Lions absolutely dismantle the Cowboys. It's going to be biblical. I can't wait. The Cowboys are horrendous in run defense. The Lions are one of the best in the league at running the ball. Dak Prescott is just Dak Prescott. They've got Lawrence out. Parsons potentially isn't playing. They're just a complete mess. And I actually feel like this is the week where the Lions come out and like mic drop and like, look, we're here now. This is our league. And it's going to be amazing to watch the Cowboys just get run all over. I think the Lions are going to absolutely blow them away, and I'm just really, really excited to see it.
All the Lions have to do is just get in front of the Cowboys and watch Dallas trip up over themselves, because they can't play from behind. They are They are terrible to play when they go behind, because you're relying on Dak Prescott then to get them out of the shtick, and
you can't do it.
Well, he nearly did against the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. Nearly did, but just not enough.
That's the story of the Cowboys. Always nearly. Never quite enough.
Nearly, boys. Yeah.
But just as a Lion, I hate this game. This game, when it was played last year at Jerry World, I've made a point out of it. It was for us technically New Year's Eve, but it was at like 1 a.m. on New Year's Eve. All I'm saying is I didn't sleep till New Year's Day. I was that angry at night. I didn't go to sleep that night because of the officiating decision. Not over it, but we won't talk about that. Even out of that, the Cowboys won by a point, and their first touchdown of the whole game was the 92-yarder to CD Lamb, which only happened because Derek Barnes whiffed on what would have been a safety. He had Dak Prescott in both hands in the end zone, completely whiffed on the tackle, and then CD Lamb managed to just catch up. Whatever the hell Kindle Vildor was doing, I don't know. I don't even think Kindle Vildor knows what he was doing at that point. That's two of those things happened and they won the game. The Cowboys are worse this year. The Lions are better. And just looking here at their practice report, Trayvon Diggs today, Thursday, did not practice. Eric Kendricks, last 2 days, did not practice. Zach Martin, Nick Vigil, and Micah Parsons, last 2 days, did not practice. They're weak, they're hurt, and I just absolutely, I'm with you. Run over him,
the ball.
embarrass him in Jerry World. I don't want to focus too much on the Lions. Shaun, you started it. You're to blame for that.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Talk us through Bucs Saints divisional matchup.
Well, hopefully it's going to be like it was last year with all that. It was last year, was it? With Mike Evans and I can't remember the bloke. Oh crap! We're flipping out. They're one of the defenders. That Barney, didn't they? And did Mike Evans get escorted off? Was that right? Yeah. Hopefully they have that. Hopefully that goes again. And I hate playing the Saints. I always want to beat the Saints. I don't know why. I just don't like the Saints for some reason. Just don't. Ever since they took, they used to do us over and they used to wind me up. But then as soon as we give them Jameis Winston, I thought that's all right. They ain't no good. And then, of course, now they've got Derek Carr crash, and now they've got some bloke that sounds like a snake rattler. So. I don't know. I think we'll beat. And we're just disappointed that we lost in midweek, because I thought, I watched we beat the Lions. Of course, we beat the Lions. But yeah, I thought, here we go. Because last season I wasn't too keen on Todd Bowles taking over, because I don't know, he just didn't do it for me. But now he seems to have got it going. And Baker Mayfield, well, everyone used to slag him off a couple of years ago. I just think he's found his home. And hopefully now we can start. They shocked me last year getting in the playoffs. I was completely shocked we got in the playoffs last year.
You won the division. Luigi wins by doing nothing. Meme is what the NFC South was.
But I know, but the way they played, they shocked me. And then this season, we need to kick on and we need to beat them Saints.
Absolutely. So 2022, by the way, 2022, the fight happened between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans.
I thought it was.
Either way, it's always a fun one.
That's how bad my memory is.
Let's just hope that Rattler doesn't have a venomous bite then, eh?
To be fair...
He plays for the Saints,
To be fair, with Marshawn
It feels
Lattimore...
like a Karl line, actually. I feel like I stole that from you, Karl, actually.
let's hope he's had a couple of rattlers. You know what I mean? Let's hope he's drunk them rattlers.
But to be fair to you there, I think you can probably look like only a week or two since Marshall and Lattimore's last fight in general. So it always feels like Marshall and Lattimore's just had a fight with someone. He's one of them.
Would you really want to fight Mike Evans? He scares me even when he smiles. I would not want to fight him. You just don't look. You look at him and you think, Jesus Christ. I mean, I would not want to fight that bloke.
If he wasn't an NFL player, he would just be a security guard for Post Malone for his gigs.
I mean, look, I'll go out and say I don't want to fight anybody at the moment. I'm not tough. I'm scared. I'm scared of my 7-year-old, and when she's like, "I'm hungry," and I'm like, "Well, you can have something later." She's like, "I want something now." I'm like, "Right, fine, just leave me alone." So
we've all been there. When they get older and they start grabbing you by the neck and you're just laughing at the Reds. That's the best thing.
But yeah, so we've got that. That's going to be a fun game. But come on, let's talk some Commanders Ravens. Come on, this is game of the week.
100%. This would show. I know we spoke about how Washington, they completely obliterate. They obliterated the Browns last week. But this is going to be a real test for them. They know what they're going up against there. Washington's offense is being solely ran through Jayden Daniels, but they're using Brian Robinson at running back a lot to take some of the weight off his shoulders as well. It seems like the connection between him and Terry McLaurin is finally getting going again. De'Ami Brown, very good deep threat as well. Zach Ertz at tight end, still a productive tight end. Not as good as what he used to be when he was in Philadelphia, but still very good tight end nonetheless. I have just had this fear that we are going to be witnessing the same sort of game that we witnessed between Baltimore and Cincinnati last week, where it is points galore. I could just see Derrick Henry running for 150 yards. I could see Lamar Jackson airing it out and also running for about another 70 to 80 yards as well. This is going to be which defense is actually going to make a stop. Which one is it going to be? And I probably would have to side with Baltimore on that one because I think defensively they've got a little bit more to them. But Jayden Daniels, we're going to see him now if it is like a score or less, we're going to see if Jayden Daniels can really now do it in the clutch moments because we know he can carry an offense. We know he can move the ball down the field. We know he can run with his legs. He can put points on the board. But now we need to see what is the real crucial part of a quarterback. Timing, clutch timing. Have you got the clutch timing? If he's got that, he's in Super Bowl MVP. He's in MVP conversation. And I'll leave it at that because that will be huge for him. Washington right now, they're sitting at the top of the NFC East, which no one had on their bingo card. Let's be real, and they're looking good. I think they are going to get found out somewhere down the line because of their defense. It's not that strong. It really, really isn't. But it's a bit. It does remind me a bit like Detroit in a way when they finally got the offense going. They were scoring points on points on points on points. Unfortunately, they were leaving the back door open and letting everybody else score points on them. So it just kind of have that sort of similarity, Fletch. If hopefully I'm not abusing the situation.
No, you're absolutely right.
But I think Washington are in that good space right now. But still, we're only in week 6. So there's still a lot of games left to go, and anything can happen. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. But no, bring this on because this is going to be a heck of a game. Also, as well, one last thing for Baltimore, Zay Flowers was finally getting involved in the game. And Zay Flowers, I love Zay Flowers because I watched him when I watched him on TV, obviously, when he was at Boston College. Fantastic receiver they got there. Really, really good. But yeah. I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
Absolutely. Now, with that in mind, that's, I think, a good place to kind of leave it this week. Just about an hour and 50. I think we've had a really good episode today. Some great conversations. A lot of just very, very, very good bits flying around. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave here and say thank you to all of my wonderful co-hosts, Shaun, Karl, and Muncie. stick around for the next couple of days, as there will be a couple more little bits. Our pick'ems will be going up in a couple on Saturday, so tomorrow if you listen to it on the day of release, then on Sunday morning, if I do get the day right when we record it, Sunday morning, the recording of our little quiz will go out. And then a couple more things I wanted to say was, don't forget to follow the Asleep at Work Network on all of your favourite social medias. On Facebook, we have the Asleep at Work Network. On Instagram, the AAW Network. On Twitter, the AAW_network. And the thing I'm really wanting to pound out now at the moment is the Discord. We do have our own Discord server. Go into the links in the description. Follow us, get in the Discord. There'll be some exclusive benefits for being part of our Discord server going forward, so make sure you're in there too. Thank you, gentlemen, and enjoy your weekend of football.
Likewise, enjoy the weekend, gentlemen.